In 2013, something happened that shocked an entire neighborhood in Córdoba, United States. It was a case so unexpected that it left people questioning everything. This is the story of Jimmy McClain, a 49-year-old basketball coach at Ridgeway High School. Jimmy was known for his discipline and strict nature, not just with his basketball players, but in every aspect of his life. People respected him, but they also knew he wasn't someone you could easily fool. It was just another regular evening when Jimmy returned home from work. He was probably looking forward to a quiet night, maybe sitting on the couch and unwinding after a long day of training high school kids. But as he walked into his house, something unsettling happened. The front door creaked open behind him. Jimmy turned around, confused, and that's when everything went wrong. Just a few houses away, another man, Johnny, was relaxing in his living room. The neighborhood was peaceful, the kind of place where nothing dramatic ever happened. It was mostly retirees living in quiet homes surrounded by perfectly trimmed lawns. Johnny had a cup of tea in one hand and the TV remote in the other. But then, out of nowhere, he heard loud bangs coming from a distance. What was that? He thought. Fireworks? A gas explosion? Or could it be gunshots? Johnny couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, so he called 911. When the police arrived, they checked the area but didn't find anything unusual. The streets were silent, the houses were dark, and there was no sign of trouble. Relieved, Johnny went back to his tea, but he couldn't stop thinking about those noises. 2 days later, the same 911 operator received another call. This time, it was from Ridgeway High School. The school's staff reported that Jimmy McClain hadn't shown up to work for 2 days. Everyone was worried. Jimmy wasn't the kind of person to miss work, not even when he was sick. Rain or shine, he was always there. For him to disappear without a word, that wasn't like him at all. Police officers decided to check on Jimmy. They arrived at his house around 10 a.m. and knocked on the door. No answer. The house was so quiet, it felt like no one had lived there for years. The officers tried peeking through the windows, but couldn't see much. Everything seemed normal, too normal. With no other option, they got permission to break in. The moment they stepped inside, they were hit by an eerie stillness. The living room was neat, as if Jimmy had just tidied it up. But then they saw him. Jimmy's body was lying on the floor, surrounded by dried blood. He had been shot multiple times, and the wounds told a story of rage. Whoever did this wasn't just trying to kill him. They wanted to make sure he was dead. Detective Jason Valentine arrived at the scene shortly after. He had been on the force for years, but even he felt a chill walking into that house. The living room felt heavy, like the walls themselves were holding onto the horror that had unfolded there. Jason crouched next to Jimmy's body, inspecting the dried blood and the bullet wounds. From the looks of it, Jimmy had been dead for at least 2 days. As he moved through the house, Jason noticed something strange. Jimmy's wallet, phone, and even his credit cards were still on the coffee table. Nothing was stolen. The bedroom was spotless, the bed neatly made. Even the garage, where Jimmy's car was parked, was perfectly organized. This wasn't a robbery. This was personal. But what caught Jason's eye was a doormat near the front door. It had been pushed slightly to the side, and on it was a partial muddy footprint. Jason stared at it for a moment, then went to check Jimmy's shoes. None of them matched the print. This was the first real clue. The investigation began with questioning the people closest to Jimmy. First up was Charlotte Smith, his girlfriend of 6 months. Charlotte described Jimmy as a kind, religious man who believed in living a righteous life. She knew he was still legally married to his estranged wife, Carla McClain, but she didn't mind. Jimmy had assured her that the divorce was just a matter of time. Charlotte's relationship with Jimmy was different from most. They didn't spend nights at each other's houses. Jimmy's faith meant that he didn't believe in living together before marriage. Charlotte had never even been given a key to his house. Their dates were simple: coffee shops, movie nights, or walks in the park. It was wholesome, but it also meant that Charlotte had little connection to Jimmy's home life. Next, Jason spoke to Carla, Jimmy's wife. Carla was calm but tired. She described their marriage as a mismatch. Jimmy was meticulous, almost to a fault. Everything in his life had to be perfectly organized, while Carla preferred a more laid-back approach. Over time, their differences grew too big to ignore. They separated but never finalized their divorce, partly because of arguments over their house. Carla wanted the house sold and the profits split, but Jimmy refused. He felt the house was his, and he wasn't willing to give it up. To make matters more complicated, Carla stood to gain a significant amount of money from Jimmy's life insurance if he died. It was a motive, but without evidence, Jason couldn't do much. Finally, Jason interviewed Dwayne Moore, Carla's 19-year-old son. Dwayne was quiet and reserved. He admitted that he didn't get along with Jimmy. He was too strict, Dwayne said. He wanted everything done his way. It was hard to live with him. Dwayne also mentioned that he didn't have a key to Jimmy's house. "If anyone has a key, it's my mom," he added. As the days went on, the muddy footprint became a crucial piece of evidence. Forensic analysis revealed it was from a Nike Air Force One, a popular basketball shoe. This led Jason to look into Jimmy's basketball connections. That's when he learned about Dean, a player Jimmy had recently kicked off the team. Dean had been lying about his age, pretending to be a high school student to secure a sports scholarship. When Jimmy found out, he cut Dean from the team, effectively ending his chances of getting the scholarship. Jason questioned Dean and his wife, Anna. That's when things got messy. Anna admitted that she had told Jimmy about Dean's deception. She had done it out of spite because she had discovered Dean was cheating on her. But Dean didn't know this. He believed Jimmy had found out on his own. The investigation took another twist when a woman named Missy showed up at a police station in Tennessee. She was terrified and claimed her husband, a man named Pooh, knew something about Jimmy's murder. Pooh was a known drug dealer, and when Jason brought him in for questioning, everything started to unravel. Pooh admitted that he had lent his gun to someone recently. That someone was Dwayne Moore. It turned out that Dwayne had been secretly buying drugs from Pooh. When Jimmy discovered Dwayne's drug use, he was furious. Jimmy even considered delaying his divorce to ensure Dwayne wouldn't inherit any money that could fuel his addiction. Feeling cornered and angry, Dwayne borrowed Pooh's gun and used a spare key to enter Jimmy's house. He shot Jimmy multiple times, then returned the gun to Pooh. Later, he bragged about the murder to a relative, which eventually led Missy to alert the police. Dwayne was arrested and eventually confessed. He was sentenced to 22 years in prison. As for Jimmy, his tragic death left a void in the community and served as a reminder of how personal conflicts can spiral into something much darker. And that's the story of Jimmy McClain, a man whose disciplined life ended in chaos, all because of the hidden battles and grudges of those around him. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more amazing content. Your support means the world to us. See you in the next one,